Thursday night edition of the Anaheim Calling Podcast. We are back to discuss a Ducks 5-3 defeat at the hands of the rival San Jose Sharks. A game that felt in some ways a lot like the previous game against Detroit. Instead, though, this one maybe had even less to really take home in a positive manner. But as we so often do on the show, we're going to try to balance the positive with the negatives and give you a really complete picture of what happened in this game. Jake, how are you feeling after a pretty back and forth game at Honda Center tonight, which you were not on site for?
I was not on site for. I think that sigh kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was a game that happened.
It was a game that happened. Boom.
Yeah, there we go. No, overall thoughts. The Ducks didn't play well. Mm-hmm. I think that's a bit of an understatement. They did not play well in tonight's game. They got outplayed by the Sharks, who, granted, are a good team. Got a power play goal finally, which I guess is a positive.
Who are a good team as of a couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah, but they're well, that's the thing, is their underlying metrics of late have been pretty solid. And the Ducks got outplayed by them. And it's not great because we've now, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse right now, basically, by saying Manson Lindholm, missing them is key. And it's really, really, really showing right now. Because
it is.
If you have them, the ability for them to transition the puck out of the zone is huge. It really makes a big difference. The other thing with tonight's game is that I think that Dallas Eakins made some mistakes. This is a very minor one. We'll get into some other ones. Late in the game, though, with the goalie pulled, he had Derek Grant out there, which I get if you want to win a face-off, because face-offs, they can sometimes make an impact at the end of a game a little bit more in those kind of one-off type situations, so I can get why you want him out there. But then not only does he stay out there and doesn't make a beeline to the bench, which is honestly what he should have done, but then the puck comes out of the zone, the Ducks regroup all the way behind their own net, and when you watch the zone entry and the concurrent the possession right after that, Grant is still on the ice, and he's still out there. And it makes no sense. And
that doesn't really indicate that he was out there just to take the face off.
No, exactly. Now, granted, it got cleared right afterwards, and then Grant went to the bench, so maybe it was just his own thought process. I'm just going to stay out here. But it was baffling, to be honest.
I can relate to that. That's how I think in beer league.
Well, and that's how not the Derek Grant thought, but honestly, I've been one of Dallas Eakins' biggest supporters. But we said this last time that, in all fairness, we should be critical of Dallas when he makes things that we perceive as mistakes, in a similar way as what we did with Randy Carlyle last year. And I quite honestly think that was a decent sized mistake of having Grant out there and leaving him out there. So I think we'll probably talk about a couple different things, but there was just a lot of things in this game that kind of leave a sour taste in your note to end this 7-game homestand, where I believe the Ducks only won
one game.
Was it one game? I thought it was two.
It was at most two. I'll have to double check.
It was maybe, there was an overtime loss also in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. So let's just jump in here. Looking at this loss, you talk about it being a mistake that Derek Grant was on the ice at the end of the game when you're trying to come back down a goal. That's pretty clearly a mistake. I think I'll even one up you there. I think what's becoming even more of a mistake is having him in the lineup.
Oh,
He continues to be in the lineup game in and game out.
Nick Delory also.
While Devon Shore continues to, sit up in the press box. And Devon Shore was playing well to start the season. Granted, everybody on this team was playing a lot better to start the year, but he is just so much. It's just so obvious that he's clearly more competent than Grant out there. He's more fleet of foot. He's got a little bit more skill. It's hard to understand Dallas Eakins' methodology right now because Derek Grant just doesn't really bring a whole lot. I know that he plays in the penalty kill, and I know that that's something that they value, but at that point, you're starting to overvalue that aspect of the game. Sure, killing penalties is important, but 5-on-5 is about 3/4 of the game on most nights.
And not only
that's
that,
the
but
issue.
there are other guys in that lineup that can have an impact on the penalty killing in a positive way. As much as people dislike Nick Ritchie, he's actually pretty decent on the penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can find guys because they seem pretty much set on having two different units for the penalty kill right now of forwards, basically, where they will either have Silverberg and Rakell out there or Shore and Grant. And it's like, well, you could also probably put Getzlaf out there if you wanted to with a Sam Steele. You could maybe look at putting Adam Henrique out there. Henrique's killed penalties in the past. There's plenty of guys that can go out there if you take Derek Grant out of the lineup. It's not like when you take Derek Grant out, there's no other guys who can do that job. And so having that as the only reason why he's in the lineup is not sound reasoning.
No, I mean, it really just isn't. Now, to be fair, the fourth line tonight did have some decent underlying metrics, but that's in pretty limited time. Although
that's an outlier also in terms of if you look at the grand schemes of the season.
It's just one game. And here's another disturbing stat from looking at Dallas Eakins' coaching performance lately. The fourth line of Delorier, Grant, Rowney had more 5-on-5 minutes than the Getzlaf and Steele lines. And I know that there might be some special teams effects in there.
With the amount of power plays, I think that may have been the cause slightly.
But that should almost never happen.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't happen on principle. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just hard to figure out right now why there's so much love for the fourth line. I mean, I get it from like a locker room message consistency perspective, but right now the Ducks need to be in the business of winning hockey games, and they're not making decisions that are conducive to that. And so looking at this game as a whole, we saw the same thing happen early on. So Ducks got out to a great start. Just a couple minutes in, Rickard Rakell gets a really nice goal coming down the ice, and just kind of a broken play a little bit, but Jakob Silverberg wins a battle against Radek Šimek, who had a real rough game tonight. But Silverberg plays it back to Rickard Rakell, who then uses Šimek as a screen in front of Martin Jones, and then just uses that patented wrist shot release to fool Jones and sends it far blocker side. It was a perfect shot, a perfect goal, and that would put the Ducks up 1-0. But just about 5 minutes later, the Sharks come down the ice on a semi 2-on-1. Goodbranson is a little behind the play. Mahura gets caught and gets turned around. Tomas Hertl gets an opportunity to bang home somewhat of a rebound/pass from Barclay Goodrow. And Hertl has all the time in the world. Both Mahura and Goodbranson are just watching him with both skates in the crease. I mean, it's shocking that Goodbranson, supposedly his quality is that he's so great at clearing the front of the net, and here he lets a guy just basically have his way. And then Tomas Hertl, there's no whistle here, which is a little bizarre because the puck was somewhat under Gibson's right pad.
Yeah.
And Hertl pushed Gibson's pad into the net. If you look at the replay, he does not push the puck into the net. He pushes the pad into the net, never once touches the actual puck. The goal would count, and then so the referees would initially review it. The goal stood, and then the Ducks, with an opportunity to challenge, declined it. Now, here are the arguments that people will make. It was early in the game, and the Ducks don't want to take a penalty. So you could say that about any play that happens early in the game and you don't want to take a penalty. So to me, that's tangential. That doesn't actually address the issue. If you watch the replay, this was clearly goalie interference. There's actually, in my mind, no debate. This was an obvious challenge. And for a team that's been struggling lately, with an opportunity to build on a lead that you've gotten early on, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me not to challenge this. At first, I thought, it's early, whatever. But then looking at the replay, it's fairly blatant. Okay. I think that there have been more questionable goals that have been allowed.
Okay, two things I want to hit up on this goal by Tomas Hertl. So first off, some people will say, well, they said it was a good goal, and kind of how did they not see that on the review, all that different type of stuff. So the way that reviews work, because I think that this is kind of a good way to be able to explain kind of how the rules are set up and how the review is set up within the NHL. So the situation room in the NHL can only flag the referee for a review, and that's actually not the referee's call for the review. That's actually to the situation room, and all they can review is whether the puck crossed the goal line. That is all that they can review. So that is what happened there. The play ended. Then the situation room in Toronto told the referee that, oh, we want to take a closer look at this. Can you come over? And they'll talk with the referee. And so all they can determine is whether the puck crossed the goal line. That's all they can do. So they did that. Once that review is over, the Ducks have the opportunity to challenge that for goaltender interference. If they wanted to do offside, they could do that. So it would be another review after that where the referee would be reviewing for goaltender interference. So that review that happened had nothing to do with goaltender interference. That's not something they could even look at. All they would look at there is that whether or not the puck crossed the goal line. So the puck did cross the goal line. That is a good goal in that essence. The Ducks have the ability to challenge there. The only thing I'll say, because I agree, I think they probably should have challenged it. I don't think it's as stone cold a case of it would have been overturned as you're making it out to be. I think that's a 50-50 at best, because the puck, his stick does push the pad, but it's almost cupping the puck in a way. Right before. I see you giving me a look right now. I don't think you really are buying what I'm selling, but I think that the puck is there and he gets part of the puck in part of the process, and it's almost the follow through that kind of catches it. So I think that would have been maybe the reasoning why I'd see that, and maybe the referee would be review that and not want to overturn it, because you also have to remember you have to have extreme evidence beyond a reasonable doubt in order to overturn the call on the ice. And the call on the ice was not goaltender interference.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I like the use of beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, here's the thing. I mean, you're not wrong. I just think that if you're ever going to challenge a goal, like this is up there.
Fair.
This is up there in terms of the ones you can challenge.
I am not disagreeing,
because you have a very substantive case that this was goalie interference.
Let me be clear here. I'm not saying
the pad was pushed into the net with the puck.
Let me be clear here. I'm not saying that I think that they shouldn't have challenged it. I think they should have. I'm making the argument for why you would not challenge it, which is that it's 50-50. It's early in the game. If you lose it, you get a penalty. And it's not only that you get a penalty then, but if there is something that is challenged later, you get a double minor on top of that.
Yeah, but those are things that just apply to any situation.
Fair.
Like that's ignoring the actual play itself,
Fair.
Which was, to me, obviously, John. We can agree to disagree. I think we don't want to spend too much time on it.
We kind of agree on this.
We kind of agree. I think you're letting them off the hook a little bit, but that's fine. That's I think it makes for a better podcast when we're not just in lockstep with everything.
Yep.
Yeah, and then later in that first period, Nick Delorier gets into a fight, second game in a row, with Dalton Prout, another guy who I'm just wondering how he's in the NHL. And it's interesting because Prout doesn't wear a visor, another kind of questionable thing. And Delorier seemed a lot more willing to just throw punches immediately, as opposed to his fight the other night against, I think it was Smith on Detroit. So, hey, I mean, fair enough. If the guy doesn't have a visor, you're probably going to throw more punches. Of course, Goulet and Holzer in that first period, once again, struggling defensively. Rakell and Getzlaf would work some magic in the offensive zone. There were things to like in that first period. Sam Steele with a really nice play, just weaving in the offensive zone, deking his way through multiple defenders, would then hit the post off of his backhand, cutting to the net, and then would nearly bat home the rebound out of the air. This was maybe one of Sam Steele's best plays as a member of the Ducks so far. I thought that he definitely had some good moments tonight.
I thought this was one of Sam Steele's better games. He created a fair amount of chances for himself, and I think that was that's a real big positive for him, because he still has that goose eggs on the goal scoring department, and so that's something where I think once one of them goes in, that's really going to help him out significantly. I'm just right now looking, and Sam Steele had 4 shot attempts on the night individually, and all 4 of them were scoring chances, 2 of those high danger chances. So that's pretty good, and showing that not only was he shooting the puck, but he was getting into dangerous areas. He led the Ducks actually in individual expected goals for tonight. So he created the most high danger chances and probably should have scored. I mean, he hit a post, didn't he? And so if he keeps getting looks like that, eventually that puck's going to find the back of the net. Also interesting, second highest on the team. Same exact stat line, 4 individual shot attempts, all at 5-on-5. This is all numbers at 5-on-5. All of them scoring chances, 2 high danger chances, 0.3 individual expected goals instead of 0.37. The one and only Troy Terry.
Yeah, I mean, Troy Terry had some moments tonight. Probably not his strongest game.
Yeah,
but he had some moments. That line as a whole had some good moments.
Here's the main issue for both Terry and Steele is that they both, even though they took those shot attempts and had those chances, the puck didn't get on net. Sam Steele only had one shot on...
And they probably still didn't shoot enough.
Well, and Sam Steele only had 1 shot on goal at 5-on-5. Troy Terry had no shots on goal at 5-on-5. So it's a good sign that they're shooting the puck, but that puck does need to get on net now. They're getting these chances, put those on net, force Jones to make a save.
Yeah. And then to end the third period, Erik Gudbranson with a brutal turnover, whips on a puck at his own blue line, breaking it out. What seems like a routine play turns into a 3-on-1 for San Jose. And John Gibson makes a really solid stop to keep it a tie game. So there
was also a weird play, speaking of Erik Gudbranson. I think it was in the first period where I don't know what happened. He toe picked, maybe? He ended up like with his face on the ice, with his skates, I think, still there, maybe on his knees, and taking himself out of the play. And it was just like...
He's finding creative ways to do that.
Yeah, it was like... I'm not sure if you know this. You probably don't. But there's a defender for Manchester United, Phil Jones, who there was a play a couple years ago where he went down and almost was like flopping like a fish on the ground, trying to get his head onto the ball. It was the weirdest thing, and that was the only thing I could think of seeing Gudbranson be like that, basically. Anyone out there that knows what I'm talking about, you will probably be laughing about that. Felix, on the other hand, just giving me a look.
I have nothing to say to that. I can't relate to it. So overall, that first period for the Ducks, it didn't feel terrible at that point, even though the shot attempts were clearly in favor of San Jose in the first period. The scoring chances from high danger areas at 5-on-5 were actually in favor of the Ducks. So I thought that first period was okay. They had some moments where you're thinking, okay, what's happening here? And other moments where, okay, this is some solid offense. So overall, it didn't feel like the game was going to turn the way it did after that first period.
Yeah, the first period definitely wasn't horrible. I mean, the thing the Ducks had going for them in that first period is that they did a decent job near the end of that period to really turn the game into their favor. You look at a game flow chart, it starts to swing upward near the end of the first period. And so it wasn't great in the first, but it was fairly even with some things going the Ducks' way.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Second period, early shift from the Ducks' fourth line that I think is probably the root cause for their strong shot-based numbers tonight. They had one good shift where they were controlling down low, threw a few pucks on net. Nick Delorier shot a couple from the boards, and they would actually draw a penalty, which, hey, if the Ducks' fourth line could do that consistently, have even one of those shifts every game, that would be a massive upgrade from the way that they've been playing lately. But that just seems like a lot to ask for, especially when you're putting Delorier into the lineup night in and night out.
It's
but
baffling.
Again, sticking to the positive here, the Ducks would then go to the power play, and at that point you're thinking, okay, decent first period, good opening shift from the fourth line. A power play goal here would be pretty nice.
Yeah.
And instead, the Ducks power play would end up doing what it's been doing quite a bit of lately, which is really ineffective point shots, not a lot of zone time. But then the Sharks would take the rare face-off violation penalty. And after that, the Ducks would get another chance not capitalize on it once again, but they would get another crack at it later in the period, which we are going to get into after our first break here. Okay, back from the first break. So Ducks don't capitalize on those 2 consecutive power plays.
Real quick. I want to highlight this. Do you think the linesman realized he was kicking the second guy out?
I'm sure they're aware of it.
No, because it's funny. He kicked the guy out, and then basically he has to say it again, trying to tell the guy to leave the faceoff circle, and then the referee comes over saying, "Oh, you just kicked him out. That's a penalty." I feel like that was a linesman not fully realizing that was the second guy, and hence why he was kicking him out, because he forgot that he kicked out the first guy. Because
it's possible.
The reason why you never see that called is the linesman on the second guy is so lenient because he does not want to have a penalty called from that situation. So that's why I looked at that, and you see the linesman do it, and it's almost like he realizes, oh crap, this is going to have to be a penalty now.
It's possible, but back to that Ducks power play, though. I mean, it's this continued addiction to point shots that I just don't understand. The Ducks power play does the same thing each and every time. They work it around. They're not really looking to go cross ice. They get it back to the point. There's no traffic, or there's some traffic. They get it off, and at best it's going to be a tip that goes in. Now, 7 minutes left in the second period, Ducks go back to the power play, and even a slight tweak to their to their absolutely ineffective strategy bore a little fruit, right? So
yeah,
they're still going back to the point, but this is Getzlaf coming out of the corner, and instead of going from his side to the point on the same kind of in that same tunnel, in that same lane, he's going cross ice diagonally back to the right point. So he's in the left corner and he's going to the right point. That forces Jones to go from post all the way switching his entire body over and having to challenge. And then from there, Rickard Rakell is able to get a slap shot on net, and it kind of gets blocked on the way to the net. Silverberg is able to pick up the rebound or dig it out of the scramble, and he bangs it home. Like, even a slight tweak like that can pay dividends. It's just that it's still not something that you can really rely upon. If you look at this goal, if you just freeze frame to when Rickard Rakell takes the shot, as he's winding up, there's no traffic in front. Silverberg is kind of late getting to the spot. You have Adam Henrique in front of the net. He has 2 defenders, so there's not really a passing lane there. So this is the absolute best case scenario for this play. Good on the Ducks for it working out. I would contend that the biggest reason it worked out is because they were going diagonally, and that forced Jones into a tougher spot. But still, this addiction to point shots, it can't continue if the Ducks want to break out of this power play.
And Bonnie asked the question, are they telegraphing their shots on the power play?
Yeah, they are. Point shots are absolutely telegraphed.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons why they're statistically the least efficient shot on the power play. I think there's a statistic out there that when you take a shot from the power play, it's almost just as likely to be blocked and turn into a breakaway on the other end than it is to go in the net, just cleanly off the shot. So it's just not something that you want to rely upon. And there's an argument out there that the Ducks just don't have the talent to have a great power play.
See, I'd argue that I don't buy that.
I don't buy that either, because
you got Getzlaf still.
Yeah, and I don't think honestly, maybe I'm just an optimist at heart, but I don't think there's one team in the NHL that should have a bad first unit power play, because you have 5 presumably top line NHL players on the ice with a man advantage. They should be able to produce something, right?
Yeah. They 100% should.
Exactly. And the Ducks have that they have that and then some. They have Ryan Getzlaf, who's a Hall of Famer. Rickard Rakell is a 30-goal scorer. Jakob Silverberg, who's been a consistent 20-goal scorer and has a really good shot. The elements are all there for a good power play. It's just that whoever's in charge of the power play, whether it's Mark Morrison, the assistant coach who's in charge of the forward lines, or Dallas Aikens, it's just they're not looking at it the right way right now. And what's kind of frustrating to me is that when the season first started, in maybe the Ducks' first 5 to 10 games, they were trying a lot more cross ice, going between the face-off dots. And yeah, I mean, it's still not the best shot. It's still not from the slot, but those are A, closer to the net, higher chance of going in, and B, more pre-shot movement. And sorry to cut you off, but back to Bonnie's question, a little less predictable, not as telegraphed.
Well, so. and here's what I'll add to that. It's almost as if by those not going in, it's not that they got discouraged, but it's almost as if they bought too much into that. We haven't scored on the power play yet. We need to simplify things. We need to work for point shots, things like that. And the issue that you have, and I think I brought this up last show on the power play, is that's the one time you don't want to simplify it necessarily.
Because it's not working anyway. So just stick to your guns.
The reason why, though, is that you have the man advantage. You should not be simply taking a shot to take a shot when you have the man advantage. Look for the open man, look for the open opportunity, and create a chance. Because you have that extra man, exploit it. And if you are just taking point shots with guys set up ready to block it, that's not taking advantage of it because you're allowing the defenders to get into shooting lanes. Get movement, get pre-shot movement. It's almost as if they've become afraid to make that cross-ice pass now. And the other issue that I have with the power play, and I haven't really been that critical of it because I think that they're, in the beginning of the season specifically, I thought they were doing more, like you said. But I really think what they need is more movement. It's too static. It's way too static. I love the 1-3-1 setup. That's what I really think is the best way to go. But the issue is you can't just be set at 1-3-1 and have that be the case, because it feels like almost like what they're trying to do is they have the zone entry, which also can be an issue at various points in time. They get the zone entry, eventually work it to one of the two guys on the half wall. They're going to pass it back to whoever's manning the point, whether it be Fowler or Mahura. They may shoot it. They may dish it back to the other guy on it. Maybe he'll look for a pass, but at the end of the day, he'll probably put it back to the point, back to the half wall, maybe get a shot off then.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with you that I don't see the zone entry as being the big issue for them. They have some little pep plays that they run that seem to be working. Like tonight, Kasha and Mahura had a nice little chemistry going where Kasha would curl back, skate up, drop it off for Mahura, and then Kasha would pop out to the wing and create a passing lane.
Yeah, but it almost feels like, and Bonnie brings up in our Twitch chat that they actually spoke with Eric Stevens about their power play and that they're simplifying it because of frustration and things like that. I think simplifying it, while it makes it easier on the players, because if they're gripping their stick too much, maybe that will make their life a little bit better. But that's not going to help them score more power play goals. Oversimplifying your power play is not what you want. You look at some of the best power plays in the league. Yes, in certain ways they're simple because they're predictable. See the Washington Capitals, Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, they also have a cheat code on the left side.
Yeah, but my point is, the reason why they have that cheat code is that it's not formulaic. It's not simple. It's Nicholas Backstrom is able to make that cross-ice pass into a dangerous spot. And also the other thing with it is that Nicholas Backstrom is able to make other plays. That Ovechkin shot always works, but it doesn't always work necessarily if there's not other options on the power play. And that's the thing, is that there are other options that he's working towards. And right now it feels like it's too much working for one thing, and that one thing is somewhat stagnant in it being just some point shots.
See, here's the thing, is I don't necessarily disagree with simplifying it, but the problem is they're simplifying it in a way that's making them less dangerous. They're doing simple things, but those simple things, like you said, very astutely, are not likely to get them more goals. So if they want to keep it simple, that's fine, but keep it simple in a analytically sound way, getting more one-timers from the flanks, getting more shots from the slot. You can focus on just that.
That's true.
And that is more simple. So we're checking that box, but you're also still likely to score goals.
Yeah.
Because right now they're actually getting further away from their goal. They're not getting to the point where it's likelier that they're going to score. And sure, there's the human element of, okay, these guys are frustrated and they just need to get one, right? Like tonight, maybe that tonight is the one. It's a greasy one. And maybe now as a coach, you can start to, introduce back into your process some more complicated things. Okay, maybe there's room for that, but I don't really see that standing up to scrutiny. Anyway, we've got all season to talk about this power play. I don't think this one is going
I have
away.
a gut feeling that we're going to be talking about the power play a lot this year.
I mean honestly, like do you see this power play getting significantly better by the end of the season?
Yeah.
Significantly.
Yes, because they're bad right now.
Well, I should say, do you see them getting to, let's say, above average by the end of the season?
Ooh, I could see it.
And that might be an unfair question because they're really bad right now. But do you see them getting into maybe the upper tier of power plays?
Not into the upper tier. I could see them getting above average, though.
I think if they can get to average, it's a success.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where they're at.
We're at the quarter mark of the season. So if they're able to if they're able to pick it up, and essentially they have 3 quarters of the season left to bring that up, I think they can get above average. I don't know how far above average, but I think they can get above average. There are obviously things that they need to work on. And real quick, Bonnie's saying they don't have their D. They have probably the 2 best defensemen that they could have for the power play. Lindholm and Manson aren't going to be playing on the power play, so that doesn't really affect things at all in terms of this setup.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could argue they just shouldn't even be using defensemen on the power play right now. Although I do think Mahura is better than Fowler for the power play right now. Anyway, so after the Ducks score this goal, you're thinking, all right, they're in business now. You know, they've got a lead. Things are looking up. And then Max Jones takes a hooking penalty. And on the broadcast, they were saying, well, this is a good penalty because it's preventing a chance. But really, Max Jones kind of stopped moving his feet.
Yep.
And he got forced into hooking. I think it was Gaudreau who was about to get a rebound and score. Yep. So it's just not a good penalty. And totally sapped their momentum.
And we've given Nick Ritchie a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Over.
I mean, Max Jones is basically doing everything. He's doing everything that people dislike Nick Ritchie for.
Yeah.
And I would argue lately it's been actually worse than Nick Ritchie.
Yep.
So spinning this forward, after the Ducks survive that penalty kill, Max Jones, almost as soon as he gets out of the penalty box, almost sets up a goal, gets the puck along the left wing, brings it down, tries to center it, and I think it was Steele who was unable to score. Kasha, yeah, that's right. Kasha goes to his backhand, and Martin Jones actually makes a really nice save. Max Jones would pick up the rebound and almost scored on the wraparound. So, hey, when Max Jones is on the ice and not in the penalty box, he's a pretty good player. Hey, wonder who we've said that about before. Right after that, though, Tomas Hertl would tie the game up with 1:41 or just about left in the second period. This is kind of a tough one for Anaheim. You know, they're just unable to get the puck out of their zone. Not really a clean clearing attempt because at this point the Sharks are controlling down low, but Nick Ritchie loses a foot race to the puck with Brent Burns along the sidewall, and then Jacob Larson. For those who can't see him, what's that thing people do when they're frustrated and they kind of just they hold their that area right above their nose?
I don't know if there's a name for eyebrows. That. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what it is. Anyway, Jacob Larson has not been playing well lately. And this goal is going to surely be brought to his attention, I would imagine, in the film room. He goes into the corner, and I mean, it's not even really the corner against Barclay Goodrow. Really meekly, just kind of points his stick out, doesn't go in at the shoulder or anything like that. Goodrow immediately lifts the stick. It goes into the corner, and then the puck is able to be cleanly fed over to Tomas Hertl in the slot, who has all the time in the world to walk it in. And, I mean, it's a great shot by Hertl. He catches it and releases it almost instantly. Fowler is providing kind of a screen. I don't think that John Gibson was able to really see this one. The problem with this goal, though, from a Gibson perspective, is that the puck comes out of the corner and Gibson barely leaves his post. He actually doesn't even come out to challenge. If you look at his positioning when the shot is released, the heel of Gibson's left skate is almost still on the goal line. So he's just too deep on this play. He's got to come out a little bit more. It goes far side blocker and makes it 2-2. I mean, it's a great shot by Hertl, but I think that there were a lot of different mistakes that led to this goal from Anaheim's perspective.
Yep, there was way too much space for For Hurdle on that play, Fowler's got to close it out a little bit better on that to basically not give him that much time and space. But also, that is an absolute perfect shot by Hurdle. Yes, Gibson can probably come out to challenge that a little bit quicker, but that's a perfect shot. I don't know if he even comes out to challenge more if he can end up making that that save.
The problem is that he was just slightly off his angle. His body is still too far to the left. But anyway, I mean, yeah, it's a great shot by Hurdle, because even if the goalie is slightly out of position, you still have to beat him, because NHL goalies can be off their angle, but it doesn't last very long. And as a shooter, being able to take advantage of that with very little time is a skill in and of itself. So we've got about 5 minutes here till our second break. So I'm just going to run through.
Go for it.
What was a very, what's the right word to describe the end of this game? Exhilarating?
Sure.
Or entertaining? Terrifying? Yeah. It was all the things. It was all the things in the third period. So just kind of to put a bow in that second period, just kind of a weird period. A lot of penalties, not a lot of just clean play. But then going into the third, Derek Grant takes a penalty, holding the stick. Not a great look there. Again, just kind of a weird night for Derek Grant. The Ducks would then get two glorious shorthanded opportunities. Both Getzlaf and I believe Rakell got great looks on the penalty kill. But that wouldn't really matter, because the Sharks were able to recover control, and Brent Burns would get a goal on that same power play. And this is a bit of a tough one if you're the Ducks, because Brent Burns just kind of walks down. He just walks down Broadway, so to speak, with absolutely no one really even challenging him. I mean, Jacob Larson just backs up as Brent Burns gains the blue line. Just no challenge whatsoever. Brent Burns is able to get a good shot off, goes to his forehand, and is able to beat John Gibson far side. And again, maybe this is one Gibson will want to have back, but I mean, the defense is just doing nothing there to help him out. I thought that this was another pretty bad misplay by Jacob Larson. I understand he doesn't want to get beat here, but you also just can't be backing up and giving a shooter like Brent Burns all that time and space.
Yep. I'm just letting you keep going.
And then after that, again, the Ducks, this time on the power play, I think this was maybe the worst goal they gave up tonight, if we're being honest. I mean, they're on the power play. They have an opportunity to tie the game up, and they turn it over in the Sharks zone. So they have an entire neutral zone worth of space to catch up, right? They have time. And Logan Couture isn't really a speedster. He actually doesn't even really fully stride coming down the ice, and no one on Anaheim is able to get back in time. Granted, there may have been some fatigue, but both Rakell and Kasha just kind of stop skating. They're literally not moving their feet by the time Evander Kane gets this puck. And Josh Mahura, I mean, he's a rookie defenseman. You can't really ask too much of him. Sorry, that wasn't Rickard Rakell. That was Troy Terry. So Couture just feathers it over to Evander Kane on the 2-on-1. He taps it home. That would make it 4-2 San Jose. And this is something we talked about against Detroit. And I know that, we talked about, well, sometimes this team, even without it, Lindholm and Manson, their numbers can still be okay. But even when the numbers are decent, this team just seems to be more capable of glaring mistakes, just brutal mistakes. And, of course, this is a situation where Lindholm and Manson would have been out there anyway. But this was just a backbreaker, just a total backbreaker. And then with 4 minutes left in the game, Max Jones rectifying his mistake with the penalty he took earlier, gets rewarded for all the shots that he's been getting on net lately, cuts in, gains some good speed going into the offensive zone, a nice drop pass from Carter Rowney at the opposing blue line. Jones gets it on net, makes a nice little curl and drag move, and really doing what Dallas Eakins had mentioned in that interview a couple of weeks ago, right? You make one move, maybe one simple move, and then just get it on net. And that's what he did here. Gets a fortunate bounce. It goes off of Shemek's, I think, glove, but it bounces past Martin Jones, and that would bring Anaheim within one. To end the third period, though, this is where things got ugly. We talked about it off the top of the show. For whatever reason, the Ducks put Derek Grant down there, or they put him out there for the faceoff, but then he doesn't come back off. And what really confused me about this play is that John Gibson wasn't on the bench. They left him in the net with under a minute left. And I understand that you don't want to give up a goal off of the faceoff, but look, there's not even a minute left. He has to be on the bench to start this play. And instead, as the Ducks turn it over in the other end, Logan Couture recovers it. Gibson isn't actually out of the net yet, so he has to backpedal. He can't really get set into his own net. Couture gathers the puck and then just fires it through the wickets of Gibson as he tries a poke check. So I can't really blame Gibson on that one because he probably shouldn't have even been on the ice anyway. So that would make it 5-3, game over. Ducks just blew the end of that game. I don't know how else to put it.
Yep, best way to put it.
And on that note, we're going to go into our second break. Okay, back from the second break. So we talked about the game. We talked about what happened. Now, Jake, your thoughts. Your thoughts on what happened there.
Yeah, not good. Instead, I have something better I want to talk about.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, as you were doing that, I was going in the Twitch chat and chatting up with Tony, and I have a bone to pick with him. Nick Ritchie is very good, actually. And there's actually a lot of a fairly big contingent of the Ducks fan base out there that are anti-Nick Ritchie, that believe that he should not be in the spots that he is in, that he should probably not be on this roster. And I want to address them because, granted, Tony brings up some decent points, but I want to first lay out some numbers because I think they're interesting and important from a rate perspective. Nick Ritchie, as of right now, leads the Ducks, and I believe this probably doesn't include tonight's game, leads the Ducks in terms of individual expected goals per 60 minutes. He averages 1.23 expected goals per 60 minutes of ice time. Rickard Rakell is second with 0.96. He is second on the team, Nick Ritchie, in shot attempts per 60 behind Ondrej Kase. He is first on the team in scoring chances per 60 and first on the team in high danger chances per 60. So, he's getting a lot of chances. Now, I'm not saying that he is going to be as good as, for instance, a Rickard Rakell, that he's going to have the stats that he does. Because I just personally don't believe that Nick Ritchie has the scoring talent that he does. But
oh, really? Wow, that's a take.
That's a very bold take, I know. But Nick Ritchie's getting these chances and getting himself into those opportunities where he's not. Part of them is him getting them for himself. Part of them, as Tony does bring up, is he's playing with Getzlaf, and that does happen when you play with Getzlaf. But we have seen other guys play with Ryan Getzlaf, like a Maxime Comtois this season, that have not been able to do a similar thing that Nick Ritchie has done this year and get those chances. You'd like to see him finish. You would. But I am in no way going to be critical of the guy when he's putting up these types of chances that he is. The only criticism that you could have is he should be able to finish these chances. And that's the only criticism. If you want to say that he's garbage, that's what you need to go for. But he's getting a lot of shot attempts. He's putting pucks at the other team's net. He's driving play. That's something that you want on your team, especially for the amount that Nick Ritchie is getting paid this year. And as of right now, actually, he's only shooting 5.9%, and he's a career average. He shoots about 9% on average so far in his career. So if that goes up, or sorry, Bonnie brings up only criticism. The other criticism is obviously going to be his penalty. But he's doing a really good job, actually, on the ice of generating shot attempts for his team. So
yeah. I mean, if you just look at this overall tonight, I do think that if you're going to look at some positives, although the numbers weren't quite there, I do think that the line of Ritchie, Getzlaf, and Kase is starting to look like it has some chemistry. They are getting some better chances. They are having some better possessions down low where they're able to cycle the puck. And I think, I mean, we kind of underrate this, but Kase has had, I mean, this is kind of starting to become a consistent run of play for him, and he's starting to find his legs a little bit more. We're seeing him dart around the ice. We're seeing him get scoring chances, and I think that that's important for the Ducks because Kase has the opportunity to really kind of be that glue in this roster, especially on the right side between that top line of Silfverberg, Rakell, and Henrique and the kid line, right? Because you don't really, if you're the Ducks, you don't want to have to rely on Terry Steele-Jones any given night because they're just young guys in their first full season. You just don't know what you're going to get from them any given night. Kasha, though, he's a very reliable player, and if he can become or keep establishing himself as an offensive threat next to Getzlaf, that kind of bridges that gap nicely. And so I think any positive you can take away from this game, I think, has to start with that line, because again, the more pressure the Ducks can take off of the top line, the better.
Yes, although tonight the top line not great. In their 10 minutes, they got shelled both from a shot attempt perspective, scoring chance perspective, and expected goals perspective.
Well, here's my issue with the top line tonight. I honestly don't care as much about defensive numbers with them. It's that their generation, their expected goals for was the lowest of the four lines. That's concerning to me, because we talk a lot about this team struggling without Lindholm and Manson, and yeah, I get that. I get their impact on the game. It's obviously huge, especially with the kind of defensive depth or lack thereof that this team has. And I understand their effect on the breakout. But look, the forwards are still allowed to score goals. They're still allowed to get scoring chances, right? This is the entire game does not rest on one pairing. And if the line of Rakell, Henrique, and Silverberg isn't going to be especially dangerous at 5-on-5, that's a huge handicap that the Ducks are putting on themselves. And so we'll see. I mean, granted, Rickard Rakell did score a goal. Jakob Silverberg scored a goal on the power play. So we're maybe making mountains out of molehills here. But I do think that at 5-on-5, they have to lead the charge night in and night out. Is that a bit of an unfair ask? Maybe. But consider the following. You have one line with three kids, Jones, Steele, Terry, who, again, you just don't know what you're going to get from. Tonight, what you got from them was not especially great. The 5-on-5 numbers were terrible. Deloria, Grant, Rowney, on some nights is an AHL line, on some nights is an okay fourth line. That's a very wide range of outcomes. And then you have Richie, Getzlaf, Kasha, who are starting to find their footing. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on that top line. And I think that in addition to the Lindholm-Manson line, is a big issue that's starting to rear its head on this roster, which makes me wonder, what are the Ducks going to do about this offensive depth situation? Is it a trade? Is it a signing? Is it a call-up? Because, again, it just seems like when it's not that top line, it's not going to be anyone else.
Yeah, and that's how it's been of late, and they're now going on a pretty tough road trip, and so we'll see. My opinion, let it be. Let the kids learn how to score. This season,
I hear some rumbling.
What are the rumblings?
Tires through the dirt. Is that a tank? Is that a tank rolling in from the distance?
I wasn't actually going to go there, but
is that a tank rolling in from the distance?
But
oh my God!
But if you want to go there, sure. I'm not going there. No, I think
you are.
I've said this. No, actually, I'm not. I've said this from the beginning that this season it's not necessarily about winning games. It's about setting themselves up for success in the future. If you want, and so in my opinion, the way that should happen is by letting the kids play, by letting them get that time. You don't want an entire team filled with them, because then there's going to be no way for them to kind of be able to learn from mistakes. They're going to kind of just let those mistakes continue. But I think letting them kind of work through this is a good thing for the future. And by trying to find a Band-Aid solution, that's not going to help them at all. I would rather the kids go out there for another 10 games, try to figure it out, try to work through these problems, and figure it out so that it won't necessarily work out for this season, but 2 years down the line, when they're big contributors on those teams, they will have that experience and know how to work through it. And so I think this year, I've said it a bunch, this year's a process.
Yeah, but the thing is that the kids can still learn and maybe win some games along the way.
No, and I agree. But what you're suggesting is there needs to be a change to the roster.
Well, I'm not saying it has to be this big fundamental change, but I think right now they're not really giving the kids an opportunity to play in competitive games. They've won 3 of their last 13 games.
Okay.
It's tough.
No,
that's just a tough. Tough situation.
Granted,
I do. If there's one thing I trust Dallas Aikens with right now, It certainly isn't late game decisions, but I do trust him with
Player
keeping
management.
the culture intact in light of these defeats. He seems like a guy who can keep their emotions pretty stable.
Yeah.
And that's important in a long season.
And the other thing I'll say is I think he'll be able to manage those kids well and be able to keep a pulse on how they're doing. But on that same note, you said they've only won 3 of their last 13. They also won a bunch of games to start the year. So coming into the season, I predicted that it would be an up and down season. And especially factoring in the Lindholm-Manson loss, because that's huge. I don't think there's any other way to put it. That's huge with the defensive depth that this roster currently has. There's no way around it that is a huge hit.
It is, and that does set the table for a lot of this. So right now, it's not a perfect time to evaluate them, but like injuries are going to happen. Injuries are part of the league.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly doesn't always happen that your top pairing goes out, but hey, again, this is the NHL we're talking about here.
Yep. So, time for some questions.
Sure.
So, for anyone out there that wants to throw some questions into the Twitch chat, we will get to it. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, we do the show on YouTube. You can search for us by searching for the AC Pod on there. Or listening to the recorded version of this on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, actually. We do a live stream of this show each and every time. You can find us at twitch.tv/acpod, and at Twitch, you can help support the show in a way that's completely free to you if you have Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime sub every 30 days. You do have to hit that subscribe button after 30 days to really help us out. But with that subscription, you get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name, and you just help support us. And on busy nights, we'll try to prioritize your questions. So, here we go. First off, I do want to make mention, we got our good friend Bonnie resubbed for 14 months in a row. So Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Hall of Famer.
We're not worthy of you. We really aren't. Diehard 24 Fan 24 resubbed for 11 months in a row. Also amazing. Lewis subscribed for 14 months in a row. We're not worthy of any of you. We're so thankful that we have this fun community that we've kind of built here. So let's get to some questions. Bonnie first asks, why does Jake hate the Ducks? I don't think I've.
Great question, Jake. You've been charged. You've been charged.
I don't think anything
crime.
I've said tonight is hating the Ducks. I actually fought back on your tank argument right now. So you know what?
I mean, sure. Okay.
I'm pro letting the kids fight through this and learn. I don't.
So by the way, I just ran some numbers. Since Josh Manson got injured,
it's bad.
The Ducks rank the Ducks are 30th in shot attempt percentage.
Yeah, it's bad.
And they're 23rd in expected goals for percentage, and in high danger scoring chance percentage, they are 20th.
Yeah,
so they're officially
it's bad.
Officially bad since that time.
Yeah, it's bad. They need Lindholm back. How many of those games have they not had Lindholm also?
Well, that's the thing. So I would have to go and do that again. So why don't we get to another question while I look that up?
Fine. Infinite Jester _ 23 said, question, would the Blackhawks be able to make use of Gustafsson, or would the Ducks be able to make use of Gustafsson from the Blackhawks, use him as a sheltered role on 5-on-5, and then hand him the PP1 quarterback role? I don't know if Gustafsson's being shopped. I honestly don't know a whole lot about him, but
he's a decent power play guy.
From what I've seen, is he's a pretty good power play guy, and that might be what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think the Ducks just need someone a little more dynamic from the point outside of Cam Fowler, who's just going to kind of shoot one through a crowd.
Which really kind of brings into question. I really like the Brandon Montour trade. Don't get me wrong. But you've kind of left yourself high and dry with that trade, and they haven't addressed any of it yet. And they've tried to.
Well, you'll remember what Bob Murray said when the trade happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but it'll be fixed.
It will make sense when you see the final picture. The issue is
the
final picture is no different.
When's that coming?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe Kevin Shattenkirk was part of the final picture. Who?
That would have helped quite a bit.
That would have.
And the Ducks just kind of swung and missed on that.
They should have offered even more money. They should have offered a third year.
Just all in on Kevin Shattenkirk.
No, just offer a third year.
Yeah. I mean, they're fully willing to give term to everyone else.
Supposedly, they only offered 2 years. 3 years would have been great because, oh, God, you know what I just realized?
Mm-hmm.
Let me finish that thought, actually, real quick. They should have offered him a third year because then he could have filled expansion draft requirements going into the, what would that be, the 2021 expansion draft?
Mm-hmm.
Exposure requirements. What I just realized is Erik Goodbranson's not even going to make those requirements or meet those requirements because he's not signed for the year after the expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now even thinking about the expansion draft about who the Ducks are going to have on their defense that they can expose.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of moves between now and then.
Well, I mean, it's next. They essentially have to have someone on the roster next season that will play in 70 games. 40 games.
Give it time on that one. Give it time.
They have to expose someone that will have played in 40 games next season or 70 games between this season and next season. I guess maybe Larson, as Bonnie's saying.
Yeah, they should do whatever they can to move on from that situation.
All right, so here we go. From Lewis said, is it just me or is the fourth line playing against the team's top line a lot lately?
Yeah, it's a little odd, right? I mean, I'm not sure if tonight they were necessarily matched up against the other team's top line, but Dallas Eakins particularly loves to put Rowney and Grant out there.
I just don't think he cares about matchups. That's my theory.
I don't think he's really matchup driven. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
He's not a Randy Carlyle.
And so that's why I think that you notice that every once in a while because he just throws out his guys when he wants to throw them out there. So Tony asks, when are the Ducks going to retire J.S. Giguere's number? I don't think it's happening.
Oh, well, so for anyone who hasn't been around as long listening to this show, Jake is just, for whatever reason, morally opposed to J.S. Giguere's number going up.
I am not, actually. J.S. Giguere is my favorite Duck of all time.
He is a hater. He is a hater. Treat him as a hater.
God, you are the worst. You are the absolute worst.
I mean, you're weirdly opposed to it. If he's your favorite player of all time, then why wouldn't you think that his number should go up?
Because his numbers aren't good enough over that period of time. I am also of the opinion.
Why is everything about numbers?
Well,
why can't it be about sentimental value?
I am also of the opinion that Scott Niedermayer's number should not have been retired. I think that numbers
which is a bit bold.
A bit bold. He wasn't with the Ducks long enough.
Well, what's the minimum of time that a player has to be with the team to be considered?
Wait. Here. Let me tell you this, and this might make more sense. I don't want a lot of numbers retired in my franchise. I want to have it be this very high and exclusive thing where only people that have been with the franchise only have been associated with that franchise, that when you think of that franchise, you think of that player. And those are the people that should be retired. If the Ducks had a Ducks Hall of Fame, J.S. Giguere's in it. Scott Niedermayer's in it. To me, the only numbers over these past 25 years of the Ducks franchise that are worthy of being retired are 8, 9, 10, and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the longevity, because of the success, and because
Pronger.
Yes, sure.
Pronger.
Oh, did you say Pronger? I heard Honor.
No, Pronger.
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Huh.
He didn't play with the Ducks. He was on the Ducks for like 3 years.
Yeah, but Stanley Cup.
You are a fan of a team that's been around forever. What if What if the Canadians retired a guy's number who was with the team for 3 years?
I mean, this is maybe not a popular take, but I think the Canadians have retired too many jersey numbers.
And you are the one trying to tell me that the Ducks should retire Giguere's
But they've also been around for 100 years.
But that's
more
my
than
point,
100 years
is
now.
After 40, 50 years, are there going to be so many numbers up because the Ducks are retiring them all right now? I just think that let it be this very exclusive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very exclusive.
It's cool.
It should,
you don't like J.S. Giguere. We get it.
God, just stop.
We get it. You don't have to justify it. It's cool.
He is my favorite Duck. You stop.
Nah, I mean, look, I think that the thing, my actual stance on jersey number retirements is that you have to be a staple of the franchise for a long time. You have to be a dominant player. You have to be one of the best players of your era, and the team had to be successful during that time. And J.S. Giguere was never like one of the top goaltenders in the NHL throughout his career, but he was a mainstay for the franchise, and he is part of really the two most signature moments in this franchise history, the 03 final and the 07 final, one of which he won the Conn Smythe as a player on the losing team, which is exceedingly rare. And he won the Stanley Cup, the franchise's only one, in 07. So I think he has a case in that department. Now, with my own criteria of having to be a dominant player league-wide, he doesn't meet that. But I think he has a case. He has a case to go up there. But I agree with you, though, that he's not as much of a signature player as a Solani or a Correa.
But I think J.S. Giguere has a better argument. And so this is where I would, after kind of having said what I said, I would give in to the notion of his number being retired in the sense of I think there's a better argument for J.S. Giguere's number being retired than Scott Niedermayer's.
What about Paul Correa?
What do you mean, what about Paul Correa? That should be retired. Paul Correa is the original Paul Correa is the original superstar of the Mighty Ducks. He was captain of the team.
So he was a superstar, but I mean, I think Giguere's teams had more success towards the tail end of his career.
Yeah, I mean, but are we gonna say team success is based upon that one player?
I mean, it's part of it. I'm just saying, like,
Paul Correa still did have success.
Oh no, he did for sure. But what I'm saying is, like, this isn't so much about Paul Correa. I guess it's more about Giguere. But it's just, I think that, especially as a goalie, if the team is good during that time, like, that has to elevate your status a little bit. It has to elevate your status as an individual player, no matter what.
So 06-07, he played 56 games, and he was amazing that year. 07-08 also played. 08-09, I think, was the year he started to have the role being taken over by Jonas Hiller at the end of the year. And then 2009-2010, he was traded that season to Toronto. So the periods of great success for the Ducks franchise, yes, obviously 07 or 06-07, he was a huge part, was the goaltender for the Stanley Cup. But as the Ducks became more and more successful as the decade went on and on, that was actually during the decline of Giguere's career. Giguere was there very similar time period as Paul Correa. It's just Paul Correa's kind of was the beginning.
Paul Correa was also one of the best players in the NHL.
Yes, and
which is a key difference.
So I think there's an argument there for Giguere because 9 years. I think there's more of an argument, honestly, for Giguere than there is Niedermayer.
Here's the thing. I mean, you look at Giguere's stats over his career in Anaheim. 01-02, 920 save percentage, playing 53 games. 02-03, the year where they go to the Stanley Cup, at age 25. Posts a 920 in 65 games, and in the playoffs, I mean, that's an
stupid thing.
Yeah, exactly, an outstanding playoff run. I mean, he posted insane numbers as well, and so that season alone is, I mean, it's up there. It's up there in terms of just, the franchise's history of goaltending. 02-03, a 945 save percentage. Winning the Conn Smythe. That's impressive. Now, of course, that's just one season, so we don't want to give it all the weight in the world. And after that, age 26, 55 games, 914 save percentage, goes all the way down to 911 in 05-06. But the year that they win the Cup, he has a 918, 56 games, and in that playoff run, puts up a 922, playing 18 games. So, hey, I think he's got a legit case.
Yeah.
I just think it's a matter of, like, taste almost.
Yeah. And so here, I mean, Niedermayer, here's the thing, played 5 seasons. Well, 4.5 because.
Okay, sure. But just sticking to Giguere here.
No. And so, no. Yeah. But it's relevant to Giguere because I think if the bar is brought down for Niedermayer to have his jersey retired, then I think Giguere has a case to have his jersey retired.
Well, yeah, letting Niedermayer in kind of opens up the floodgates, like you said. And Giguere's second to last season in Anaheim at age 30, 58 games played, puts up a 922. He's had some. Yeah. He had at least 3 very good seasons as a Duck.
And So Tony asked this in our Twitch chat. Says if the Ducks would have won the Cup in 2015, would Kessler's number be retired? No. To me, there's no way. That's the thing is that you need
Tony coming in hot with the questions.
You need to start setting. It's almost like you need to set the bar for what's a retired number and what's not. And to me, not any good player. There are going to be fan favorites, good players that just simply aren't worthy of having their jersey retired. And that's, to me, where Niedermayer falls. And that's, to me, where Giguere even falls. To me, Solani and Correa, Getzlaf and Perry are the only two as of right now.
So the standard has to be that you play your entire career with the Ducks?
No, not the entire career, because Correa didn't.
Because none of those, outside of Getzlaf, 3 of the 4 guys you just named didn't play their whole career with the Ducks.
So it's not about playing your whole career with the Ducks. It's being synonymous with that franchise. It's being...
But
being
Giguere's
a Hall of
absolutely
Famer.
synonymous with the Ducks franchise.
Who?
Absolutely.
Giguere? No,
yeah.
I know, but I think there's also needs to be about a Hall of Famer.
Okay, I mean, I don't think Giguere's a Hall of Famer,
and that's kind of where I think this conversation I fall off on it.
He did play 9 seasons with the Ducks, though. That's
I know,
the majority of his career.
So the longevity is there for Giguere. I just don't think
longevity, team success, individual success
like
are
I said,
all there.
It could be. To me, he's the one that I would not have Niedermayer there. I would not have Giguere. I think that Gibson is Gibson's on the path to be there.
I don't know about that.
We got a question from Bonnie that is Gibson on the path.
I mean, I hate to say this.
That was Infinite Jester that said it.
I hate to say this because it's really unfair to Gibson. I'm just saying this purely as like how other people view it. Here's the problem with Gibson. Over the last at least a year and maybe even the last couple of years, the Ducks just haven't been good with John Gibson. And there's this whole stigma of his injuries. He hasn't won a major award. Like he himself individually has been very good, but he just doesn't have the narrative going for him, unfortunately.
So, I mean, if he wins the Vezina, I think he's going to have his number retired. If he's here for 4 or 5 more years.
See, I don't know about that. I think you have to have team success. I mean, I know it sounds dumb, but I think you do have to have team success because when I look up at that jersey number, I should have moments in my head of playoffs, victories, things that brought up the team.
I don't know. I think you don't necessarily have to have that.
Yeah, but if you look at the course of history and guys who get their jerseys retired, they usually have some degree of success with them, though. Team
Pavel
success.
Bure. Did he? Oh, yeah. Didn't the Canucks make the Cup final with Pavel?
Yeah, they made the Cup final in '94.
Right.
It almost beat the Rangers.
Yeah.
Who had Mark Messier. No,
fair.
I mean,
fair.
Getzlaf has been to the playoffs consistently over his career. Has won a Stanley Cup. Perry, same thing. Solani won a Stanley Cup. Paul Correa.
Tony brings up a good point. This should probably be a Patreon episode. Tony, it's all your fault. You derailed us.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's probably best that we moved on from the game.
The game was not great.
I mean, I could the thing is, if Gibson remains a Duck his whole career and the Ducks go on a few more playoff runs and maybe make a Stanley Cup final, I think he definitely has an argument at that point because then he basically becomes Giguere.
Is there any question about Getzlaf and Perry's numbers getting retired?
Perry, maybe. Not Getzlaf.
I think that both go up, and I would not be shocked.
If Correa went up, then Perry does at this point.
I think they may retire. I mean, never mind. I was going to say they might retire them on the same night because of the Twins, but I doubt they'll do that.
Yeah, just to give them their own night. Yeah. But yeah, I think Getzlaf definitely goes up, and Perry most likely will.
Tony asked, what team is Getzlaf going to after his contract expires to get away from this tire fire? I know it was a joke, but
don't awaken the beast.
I don't think he's leaving. Getzlaf has said for a while that he really wants to be a one franchise player.
Yeah,
that's something that he finds
sounds
important.
Like someone else we used to say that about.
Who did we say that about? Perry?
Yeah. You were. I mean, your confidence level was so high.
But we have legitimate quotes from Getzlaf saying.
Okay, quotes. Wow, quotes that legally binding. So like, guys have never done things different from what they've said in interviews.
But this was not Perry. This was Perry. This was the Ducks buying him out.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the equation. Is there are two parties here, and anyway, I don't know how we got here.
Getzlaf will retire a Duck. Bonnie asks
I hope he does. I hope he does.
Bonnie
I think it's more
will Perry retire a Duck? I'm gonna say doubtful.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say a bridge got burned there, but I can't imagine that went over very well.
Yeah.
Not to put words in anyone's mouth, but just seeing the situation for what it is, asking a guy to basically just leave when, I don't think Perry's really ever been part of the problem. Maybe even the opposite. I think that it's been the roster that he's had to work with sometimes in his own health. So anyway, yeah, I see Getzlaf retiring as a Duck just because maybe even the fact that Perry didn't get to will motivate him to make sure at least he gets to do it.
Mm-hmm. Also, congrats to Perry for playing his 1,000th game.
Yeah.
So, yep. I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight as Felix leans back and takes a sip of his water.
Yep. Well, thanks for tagging along, everyone. We have one more podcast this week on Saturday night. The Ducks begin their road trip against St. Louis. So doesn't get any easier for these Ducks as they try to sort out what currently ails them. We will be there to break it all down post-game. Jake will not be there.
Nope. Wedding anniversary. 1 year anniversary.
I wasn't going to say what it was, but you just completely beat me to it, which is fine.
I'm an open book.
You're an open book. That's fine.
Although
we're all reading.
Yeah.
So we'll be there. We'll have that coverage for you. Make sure to keep it locked into our Twitch channel after the game, twitch.tv/acpod. If you're a fan of the show, highly recommend you check out our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/acpod. Pardon the burp there. If you pay $1 a month, you get access to our patrons only chat, which is a lot of fun. $5 a month, though, you get 2 bonus episodes. We have one up right now that we recorded last weekend. That one was a lot of fun. Definitely recommend that you go check that out. Of course, also make sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review. Helps the show out tremendously. In addition to that, there's always social media that you can take to show your support. Give us a shout. Tell us why we're so wrong. Well, just tell Jake that he's wrong. Leave me alone.
Stop.
At Reindeer Games 91, flood his inbox, flood his mentions.
You're the worst.
I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. Actually, yeah, tell him he's a Giguere hater. Make sure he knows.
As I said, he's my favorite player.
Not to speak ill. Just I want everyone to just spam Jake's mentions with the Will Smith song "Get Jiggy with It." Just spam it. Spam it hard. Anyway,
someone make sure to send gifts to Felix of Chris Kreider running over Carey Price.
Wow, what the heck? Just bringing up like an injury to a player. Wow, very dark. Anyway, I'm on Twitter. Look that up. And make sure to check out AnaheimCalling.com, which is also on Twitter at Anaheim Calling. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Thanks so much for following along, and we will catch you at the next show. Talk to you then.
Bye.